Oh no. But he's just too big. He's so big that he couldn't fit into my Metroid video. I had to cut him out and do him separately. Look at this. How are you supposed to make this into a playable fighter? As he is, he clips through all the platforms. Size him down and he just looks weird. There's no way to fit him into Smash Brothers that doesn't... I did it! But seriously, Smash has always been designed around characters like Bowser being the largest. But if you raise the platforms up and increase everybody's jump height accordingly, you easily make room for larger characters like Ridley. But now one problem replaces another. How do we make a giant character work in Smash Brothers? And I'll admit right now that this is going to take significantly more effort to design than pretty much any other potential character. And if that sheer amount of work is why you don't think Ridley should be in Smash, I respect that. But somewhere in this convoluted mess of ideas I'm about to spew out, there is the potential for one of the most interesting characters in the game. So, there are 3 traits Ridley needs to have to do his character justice. First, he's got wings for a reason. Much as Little Mac is a terror on the ground, Ridley needs to be death from above. We need to find a way for a significantly larger than normal character to be aerially superior to everyone else. This is gonna be hard. Second, Ridley needs to feel like a boss fight. I'm not talking about some kind of gimmicky playable boss mode, just that he needs to feel like one. Incredibly powerful, predictable attacks, exploitable weaknesses, maybe some kind of multi-phase mechanic. We'll dive more into that later. And third, this is more of an aesthetic thing, Ridley's moveset needs to be absolutely brutal. I should be able to look at his moves and think to myself, oof, that's gotta hurt. With the ground rules set, let's start with the obvious. Ridley is much larger than any other character on the roster. This is both a blessing and a curse. It gives him a massive amount of range on his attacks, but with such a large hitbox, he could easily be comboed to death. It also introduces questions on how certain abilities will affect him. How could Pikachu throw Ridley, for example? That'd look bizarre! Major gimmick number 1. Ridley cannot be thrown. Characters can still grab him by either the head or tail, depending on where the grab hitbox lands, and they'll be able to pummel him, but they cannot throw him. They just bash away until Ridley yanks himself out of their grasp, which gives him a very unfair advantage against certain characters, one that's going to take a massive weakness to make up for. So, major gimmick number 2. Ridley cannot shield or dodge. Pressing the shield button at any time will cause Ridley to curl up, like you'd expect from a shield animation, but here, he's just bracing himself for impact. This will reduce the knockback he's about to take, but not the damage. This serves a dual purpose. It makes Ridley seem far more powerful than any other character, shrugging off attacks that would kill anyone else, but he's also taking more damage than anyone else, ultimately resulting in a character that lives to higher percents, but still dies in a timely manner. It also makes it easier and more enjoyable to fight Ridley, seeing as any attack is pretty much guaranteed to hit. That is, if you can reach him. Major gimmick number 3. Flight. Unlike other flying characters, Ridley doesn't have multiple jumps using his wings. Instead, his up B has him spread his wings and fly around freely. Yes, I said freely. Take that, Sakurai, I'm gonna make this work. And I hear you, that sounds absolutely broken. But here's the thing. Much like the Final Smashes I've been showing, flying for Ridley functions as a transformation of sorts. This gives him a new set of moves, ones designed around damaging your opponents but not killing them. You'd initially only have access to 4 moves in this form, his different specials. Each represents a different way of grabbing an opponent, snatching whatever's in front of you, charging forward for a command grab, and some kind of badass sweet-spotted tail stab that impales fighters to bring them to you. Think of it like the alien fatality from Mortal Kombat. And there's the up special that cancels the flight. You can move freely with an enemy in your grasp, but you cannot fly off screen and you can't throw them. That would be broken, obviously, but you can do things like this. or this, or this. So basically, Flight for Ridley functions as a really fancy way of grabbing and pummeling opponents. Despite how painful some of these attacks may look, they never cause a fighter to leave your grasp, which means no knockback, which in turn means there's no way for an enemy to die from these attacks. But even then, this gimmick is still stupidly broken, so here are a few more drawbacks. Drawback number 1, Ridley cannot cancel this up B into aerial attacks. He's gotta land or grab a ledge before he can do anything that deals knockback. Drawback number 2, if Ridley takes a certain amount of damage or knockback in a single flight, he will go into a freefall. This threshold gets lower as Ridley gets hurt. Drawback number 3, if a fighter struggles free of Ridley, they can choose to be launched significantly further than the average grab release, in the direction of the grabbed character's choosing. Basically, hold down the direction on the analog stick, the amount you hold down will determine how far you go. This is to prevent Ridley from carrying characters with poor recovery somewhere where they can't get back to the stage, and to give people the option to either get to safety or immediately retaliate to try and knock Ridley out of the air. Drawback number 4, Ridley can't just fly into the top left corner and wait for the match to end. Ridley himself will actively prevent you from flying too far off the stage, aggressively advancing on his opponents over time. Gameplay-wise, imagine a battle royale arena shrinking, except in this case you can't move outside the circle. Your character won't let you. Still with me? Good, because we have one more gimmick to talk about. Meta-Ridley. Ridley is normally covered in some kind of cybernetic armor, so we're going to use it here. When he's at 0%, he is completely encased in it, making him heavier and more powerful. These cybernetics would enhance his abilities in various ways. Missiles firing alongside his fiery breath, rocket jets propelling his attacks forward, things like that. These extra effects cause his attacks to have longer animations, making them easier to dodge and punish. But at this point, who cares? You're practically invincible. But that changes as various parts of him take damage. The armor will break off and he'll lose those enhancements, becoming lighter, taking additional damage in those areas, and therefore becoming easier to kill. While his attacks are a little quicker now, they don't deal nearly as much damage. This becomes crippling when Ridley's wings break. Once that happens, he can no longer fly, giving him the worst recovery in the game. With that final piece of the puzzle, I feel confident in claiming that Ridley could work as a fully fledged, balanced giant fighter. He starts as a heavy, near-invincible powerhouse, throwing out ridiculously strong attacks with reckless abandon as he shrugs off incoming damage. But as the fight progresses, he enters a second phase of sorts, becoming faster but more vulnerable, and must be played carefully if he's going to survive.